Hi, Mark Gilbert here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to be in tune with the infinite. Now, you hear that phrase, you should have three questions come into your awareness right off the bat. First, what is the infinite? Secondly, how do you become in tune with the infinite? And thirdly, assuming you want to do that, how do you go about doing it? We're going to look at all those questions in this video by way of reviewing some quotes from a book that was one of the top-selling self-help spiritual books of all time. It was actually has been published and sold over 2 million copies, translated into 20 languages, and you may or may not have heard of it, but it's called In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. This book was actually written and published in 1897, over 120 years ago. And in fact, the phrase in tune with the infinite has become such a standard within metaphysical and spiritual communities and by other authors using it that you've heard the phrase many, many times. Now, I don't know that Trine originated the phrase, but he certainly, by way of this book, In Tune with the Infinite, certainly popularized it and put it into the sort of common spiritual language that carries forward even to current times. One of the things you're going to find by hearing some of the quotes is it's very contemporary language. It's not archaic and old sounding. You'd think if you're going to go back and look at a book from the 1800s that it's going to sound old and hard to read. It is not. In fact, after you hear these quotes, I suspect that many of you are going to want to go find the book if you don't already have a copy of it. And if you do so, well, you can find paperback versions out there on sale. You can find ebook versions on sale, but I'm going to mention that it's also, because of its age, in the public domain, and you can go online and find free electronic versions of this book and read them at your leisure. I'm going to link to some information in the show description that gives you more information about Trine and who he is, as well as links to the book so that you can get a copy for yourself if you don't already have one. Now, what we're going to do is I want to go back to the three questions I asked at the very beginning. But as we go through each one, I'm going to share some quotes from Trine's book, and then I'm going to stop and comment on them. And the first question is, what is the infinite? Here then is our first quote. There is then this spirit of infinite life and power, back of all, which is the source of all. This infinite power is creating, working, ruling through the agency of great immutable laws and forces that run through all the universe and surround us on every side. Trine goes on to say, God then is this infinite spirit which fills all the universe with himself alone, so that all is from him and in him, and there is nothing that is outside. Trine also writes, if God is the infinite spirit of life, back of all, whence all comes, then clearly our life as individualized spirits is continually coming from this infinite source by means of this divine inflow. And the final introductory quote on this question is, if our lives as individualized spirits are directly from, are parts of this infinite spirit of life, then the degree of the infinite spirit that is manifested in the life of each must be identical in quality with that source, the same as a drop of water taken from the ocean is, in nature and characteristics, identical with that ocean, its source. Hopefully the quotes are self-evident, but what Trine is really saying here is that there is a power, intelligence, and force that has created this universe that we live and move and have our being. We can call it God, we can call it spirit, we can call it all, the all. You know, it doesn't matter what words we label it, but there is this power that is there. And that is what Trine means by the infinite. And in fact, that's what most spiritual teachers would see as the absolute, the infinite, the all. There is this essence or nature where it's beyond time, it's beyond space, it's beyond form. It is timeless and eternal. It has all power and presence and intelligence within it. We can call it God or whatever we wish to call it. But in this case, we're referring to it as the infinite. And it's this thing that transcends us, but also is creating this manifest world for us to live and move through. And so we often say in our teachings that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Our spiritual nature comes from the infinite. But our life experiences are coming through our human experience as we move through a manifest physical world And as Trine's quotes point to, we are these individualized spirits that are moving through this human experience. So we can see it sort of like it's a multi-layered or stratum or continuum between the material realm, the mental realm, and the spiritual realm, and that we're living in multiple realms at all times. In fact, if you watch many of my videos, you know I often talk about that we are these multi-realm beings who are navigating a oneness that's created through different vibrational levels, and that we can move up and down the continuum and focus our attention on spirit or focus it on physical matter within our minds, but that we live in these multiple realms at one time. It's interesting because as I often teach that, there's also quotes from Trine in this book where he references the same point. I'd like to go through a couple of those real quickly with you. This next quote, he says, "The individual existence of man begins on the sense plane of the physical world, but rises through successive gradations of ethereal and celestial spheres, corresponding with his ever unfolding deific life and powers to a destiny of unspeakable grandeur and glory. Within and above every physical planet is a corresponding ethereal planet or soul world, as within and above every physical organism is a corresponding ethereal organism or soul body, of which the physical is but the external counterpart and materialized expression. From this etherealized or soul planet, which is the immediate home of all our arisen humanity, there rises or deepens in infinite gradations spheres within and above spheres to celestial heights of spiritualized existence, utterly inconceivable to the sense man." He continues, "The fact of life in whatever form means the continuance of life, even though the form be changed. Life is the one eternal principle of the universe, and so always continues, even though the form of the agency through which it manifests be changed." And finally, "There are in the other form, then, mentalities and hence lives of all grades and influences, the same as there are in the physical form." Now that's a little bit of a complex quote, and I'm not going to break down all of it, but as you read it and listen to it, the main takeaway that I want you to get is that we live in this physical sense world, but as Trine is pointing out, we have levels below us and levels above us, including up to planetary levels that combine and meld all of us for spheres that continue ever expanding upward. If you can sort of lock that image in of up, 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 an eternal ever upward to something that is the infinite, the highest levels, we're having our human lives somewhere in that gradation. We're down here in the world of the relative, where we see things as separate and apart from one another. I hope you're enjoying this video. If so, I'd invite you to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Those actions really do help us share these videos with more people. So that leads us to the next question, which is, what does it mean to be in tune with the infinite? How do we become in tune with this thing? We're down here in the material realm, living our lives most of the time, also in the mental realm and our thoughts. How can we take that to be in tune with the infinite? Here's what Trine writes. "The great central fact in human life, in your life and in mine, is the coming into a conscious, vital realization of our oneness with this infinite life, and the opening of ourselves fully to this divine inflow." He adds, "And what does this mean? It means simply this, that we are recognizing our true identity, that we are bringing our lives into harmony with the same great laws and forces, and so opening ourselves to the same great inspirations as of all the prophets, seers, sages, and saviors in the world's history, all men of truly great and mighty power. For in the degree that we come into this realization and connect ourselves with this infinite source, do we make it possible for the higher powers to play, to work, to manifest through us." Trine is pointing out that there is a flow, both of information and power, coming from the infinite through us. And the more that we can get in harmony, think of it like playing the notes correctly in music, the more that we can bring our thoughts, our words, our actions into alignment with the great inflow that's coming down through us, through and from the infinite, the more that we can manifest through the power, the greatest expressions of our lives that are already outpictured and envisioned in patterns within the infinite. You might think of it as that there's a pattern of perfection and the greatest, highest possibilities for your life in the divine. And if you can align your thoughts, your words, and your actions in alignment with that, then you can bring it into flow, into a harmony. And that's what he means to be in tune with the infinite. When we can get in tune with that vision and the highest possibilities for our life, we can allow it to flow through us and manifest into the physical form. Which leads us to the final question, which is, assuming that we want to be in tune with the infinite, how does one go about doing this? Well, some of that you might already have picked up on just based on the prior quotes and conversation. It's a matter of turning our attention to the divine, to the infinite, picking up the perfections of our life, the patterns of possibilities of our life that are in the infinite, and then using our thoughts, our words, and our actions to be in tune with that, to be in alignment with it. And once we can see the highest possibilities and then act from that highest possibilities, the more that we can meld that into our aspect of our material lives. Well, how do we know what these patterns are? How can we know what Spirit's highest vision is for us? Trine calls us to realize that there's two kinds of will, the human will and the divine will. And to that end, he writes, the human will is the will of what, for convenience sake, we may term the lower self. It is the will that finds its life merely in the realm of the mental and the physical, the sense will. It is the will of the one who is not yet awake to the fact there is a life that far transcends the life of merely the intellect and the physical senses, and which, when realized and lived, does not do away with or minify these, but which, on the contrary, brings them to their highest perfection and to their powers of keenest enjoyment. Then he writes, the divine will is the will of the higher self, the will of the one who recognizes his oneness with the divine and who consequently brings his will to work in harmony in conjunction with the divine will. So then how do we go about tapping into the divine will? Trine invites us to listen to our intuition. Intuition is to the spiritual nature and understanding practically what sense perception is to the sensuous nature and understanding. It's an inner spiritual sense through which man is opened to the direct revelation and knowledge of God, the secrets of nature and life, and through which he is brought into conscious unity and fellowship with God. He goes on, the moment a person realizes his oneness with the infinite spirit, he recognizes himself as a spiritual being, and it no longer as a mere physical material being. He then no longer makes the mistake of regarding himself as a body, subject to ills and diseases, but he recognizes the fact that he is spirit, spirit now as much as he ever will or can be, and that he is the builder and so the master of the body, the house in which he lives. And the moment he thus recognizes his power as master, he ceases in any way to allow it the mastery over him. I hope you've enjoyed these quotes from Trine. I hope it encourages you to go look at the book and read more of Trine. I think you will find a really contemporary voice, even though the book was written many years ago. But in summary, how does one become in tune with the infinite? We can break it down quickly to 3 steps. The first is changing your perception, changing from seeing yourself as a material body and person solely in this physical world, but to recognizing that you're a spiritual being, its truth and essence. Second, listen to your intuition. Listen to your intuition and be guided by the higher wisdom that can come from Spirit down into you, which guides you to the highest vision for your life. And third is to be in harmony. To be in harmony by aligning your thoughts, your words, and your actions with that highest vision received through intuition. The more you can practice that, the more that you can become and bring your life in tune with the infinite. I hope you've enjoyed this video, benefited from it in some way. Thank you for watching.